The opinions expressed during this show are not necessarily those of this station's, its employees, or advertisers, but are solely the opinions of the host and the guests that appear on the show. It's time now for Tea Party Talk with TomZ, hosted by Tom Zawistowski, president of the We the People Convention and executive director of the Portage County Tea Party. Get ready to become a totally engaged American who is informed about the critical issues that are affecting the welfare and individual rights of all Americans today.
S&K Asphalt and Concrete has been serving residential, commercial, and industrial customers since 1988 with quality paving services. The experts at S&K Asphalt and Concrete have the knowledge and experience to meet your paving needs. From parking lots to driveways to repairs and resurfacing, S&K paves the way. Call today for a free estimate. 330-724-9090. That's 330-724-9090. Or visit online at skasphaltconcrete.com.
Are you concerned about your family's safety? Now, Target Thing Pro Shop is a female-friendly gun shop, range, and training center. Target Thing is in Garrettsville. We're on the web at targetthing.com. Target Thing is where they offer guns, ammo, and training to help you keep your family safe. Target Thing Pro Shop.
Fed up with politicians who care more about special interests than people on Main Street? So is Opportunity Ohio. We're working hard to solve Ohio's toughest challenges so Ohioans can create more jobs to grow our economy. See our plans and consider a tax-deductible contribution at opportunityohio.org. Invest $25 for a signed copy of Matt Mayer's book, The Founding Debate, Where Should the Power Over Our Lives Reside? Please visit opportunityohio.org.
Well, good morning, and welcome to Tea Party Talk with Tom Z. I am Tom Zawistowski, and I greatly appreciate you taking your time out of your day to join me. And we hope you'll enjoy the show today. Those of you who are watching the live stream at Tea Party Talk with TomZ.com, welcome to all of you. We appreciate you joining us online. And for everyone who's listening on the radio on Saturday mornings from 9 until 9:30 on WHLO 640 AM in Akron, Ohio, which has a monster signal on Saturday mornings, covers 66 of the 88 counties of Ohio, as well as parts of Indiana and Michigan and western Pennsylvania. Welcome to all of you. And also to those of you who listen on iHeartRadio. Many of us are using iHeartRadio on our phones to listen to talk radio, and thank you for joining us across the country in Colorado and Texas, Florida, and other states that I know people are listening. Welcome to all of you. We're glad to have you with us this morning. This morning, we're going to talk a little bit about jobs again, which has been a recurring theme. As you know, last week we talked about jobs. And, again, I'm just trying to put in perspective, what you're hearing and what it means to you, because that's what it's all about. People react to what affects them directly. And that's why I like to focus our show on the things that are important to you listeners, because that's what it's all about. So we're going to talk today about this new study that came out. It was just printed in on a website called cnsnews.com, came out on May 12th, and basically using census data or Bureau of Labor Statistics data, this website found that 7,231,000 manufacturing jobs have been lost in the United States since we reached our peak of manufacturing jobs, which was way back in 1979, folks. And so we are down 37% in jobs, in manufacturing jobs, since that peak in 1973. And, what this really means to you is that real median household income of Americans, okay, so that's the total income of you and your wife, the median household income, who have completed high school. So this is for those of us who have completed high school but have not attained a higher degree, also peaked in the 1970s and have declined since then. According to the Census Bureau, the real median household income of an American household who has completed 4 years of high school peaked in 1973 at $56,395 in constant 2013 dollars. In 2013, that same individual's income was down to $40,701. That's a drop of $15,698 per year per family, a 27.8% drop. Now, that's real money, folks, and that's what is happening to the middle class, and that's what is happening to you. And there's reasons for this. It's not like we can't manufacture anything in the United States. We're the best at manufacturing things. But our government has taken action that has hurt us, and they're about to do that again. But before I get into that, I want to talk to you a little bit about, what happens. This is 7,231,000 jobs of people who have a high school degree. But how many people have a high school degree? Right? Think about that for a second. What would be your guess? What percentage of the kids we send to public school and private school actually graduate in 4 years? Well, believe it or not, they're calling it good news, okay, but I really question whether it's good news or not, and that is that we reached a new high of 80% for the first time in 2012. That's right, 80% of the kids who go to school graduate high school in 4 years, and that was the most in U.S. history. And I don't know about you, but I was kind of surprised by that statistic, okay? And basically, the question I have is what happens to those kids who don't graduate? Because, those manufacturing jobs that I just talked about were held by people that had a high school diploma. What do you do? What does 1 in 5, 20% of the kids that are being born and raised in America today, what do they do for a job? If the people who do graduate from high school have lost 7 million manufacturing jobs, what hope do these young people have that didn't even graduate? And who are they? Okay. Well, once again, the problem is that there's huge discrepancies. Whites have an 85% graduation rate compared to 76% for Hispanics and 68% for blacks. Okay. And that's been going up. And in fact, the minorities have closed the gap significantly in the last 6 years. But still, that 68% is really a weak number, okay? And that's the concern I have of that is there's another study out that says that only 52% of black males graduated from high school in 4 years. 52% graduated in 4 years, okay? And folks, there's places like Cleveland, all right, where I know that's true. Literally, they were in the 60%. 40% of the kids who go to Cleveland public schools never get a high school diploma. And I'm sure that's true in Baltimore. And you know what? It's true in all the democratically controlled areas. Matter of fact, there's a thing called dropout factories. Schools that graduate less than 60% of students. And nearly 1/4 of African American students attend a dropout factory, compared with 46% in 2002. Okay, so it's getting better, but still 1/4 of black youth attend what's called a dropout factory, and about 15% of Hispanic students attend one of these schools. Okay, so they graduate less than 60% of their people graduate. There were 1,359 of these schools in the United States in 2012. 1,359 out of 18,000 school districts are dropout factories who graduate less than 60%. Guess what? They're all in Democratic areas. Why is that? Because they won't allow competition. Because, as I've said to you a million times, we don't have a public education system in the United States. We have an adult jobs program in the United States. Students be damned. Okay? And this is the proof of it. Because that's why they don't want vouchers. That's why they don't even want charter schools, which I don't believe in. I don't think they're a good enough fix. This is a tragedy, folks. This is a tragedy. And what's being done about it? What is being done about it? Nothing. Nothing. You should be all hands on deck. We need to change this tomorrow. If you really cared about those kids in Baltimore, if you really cared about Hispanics and blacks, right? Don't they say we, the conservatives, don't care about minorities? How come I'm on my radio show asking you to stand up for blacks and minorities and Hispanics and demand that they get the education we're paying for? If I'm such a racist and a bigot, who are the racists and the bigots who intentionally take action to keep down blacks and minorities in Democratic areas? And guess who they are? They're blacks and minorities who keep these people down because they got theirs, but they can only stay in power if they keep the rest of them on the government plantation. It's outrageous. But it's the truth, folks. It's the truth. So now we have this new thing going on, which is this trade agreement, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And many of you listening to the show will remember, this whole thing about NAFTA. All right, you young folks, you don't remember NAFTA, which Bill Clinton, a Democratic president, signed. But a lot of people believe that these manufacturing jobs, these 7 million good-paying jobs that gave people with a high school education the chance to be in the middle class, those jobs were lost in a great part due to NAFTA, which basically shipped all of our manufacturing overseas and destroyed our manufacturing base here in the United States. Well, what is this Trans-Pacific Partnership trade deal that the president and the Republicans, now get this, President Obama and the Republicans are trying to get this passed? Well, supporters say it will be a boon for nations in the Pacific Rim, and it would in the Pacific Rim. Okay, and it says that it would unlock opportunities and address vital 21st century issues within the global economy. All right, and they're saying that it's basically to help the U.S. work with our Asian partners closer. Opponents in the United States see the pact as mostly a giveaway to business, encouraging further export of manufacturing jobs to low-wage nations while lifting competition and encouraging higher prices for pharmaceuticals and other high-value products by spreading American standards for patent protection to other countries. A provision allowing multinational corporations to challenge regulations and court rulings before special tribunals is in drawing intense opposition. Okay? So that's what's wrong with this Trans-Pacific Partnership, because, again, it looks like we are going to do – this is all about big business. This is all about big business, and that's why the Democrats, in particularly, are up in arms against this, because they know that they really are being that they're trying to say that the American people, the common person, those 80% with a high school education, aren't represented here. But here's what's really outrageous about this. What's really outrageous about this is it's all being conducted in secret. Okay. Breitbart has a story that says only 2 Republicans admit that they've actually read the secret Obama trade deal, and both are unsupportive. Okay? But here's the details. If you want to hear the details of the Trans-Pacific Partnership trade deal that the Obama administration is hoping to pass, you've first of all got to be a member of Congress. You've got to go to classified briefings and leave your staff and your cell phone at the door. If you're a member who wants to read the text, if you're a congressman who wants to read the text, you've got to go to a room in the basement of the Capitol Visitor Center and be handed the bill, the trade agreement, one section at a time. They watch over you as you read it, and you are forced to hand over any notes you make before leaving. And no matter what, you can't discuss the details of what you've just read. Folks, can you believe this? Can you believe this? What happened to all those Republicans who ran and pledged that they would not pass bills until they read them after Obamacare? Remember Nancy Pelosi? We'll know what's in the bill after you pass it. These people in Washington are voting on a trade bill that they don't know what's in it. That's outrageous. That's unacceptable. You can't do that. We'll talk more about this jobs-killing bill when we get back. You're listening to Tea Party Talk with Tom Z.
I'm Nick Skiriotis, president of S&K Asphalt and Concrete. As a Greek immigrant who came to America legally, my family and I have lived the American dream of freedom, hope, and opportunity. But that dream is fading due to an out-of-control federal government that is mixed up worse than a soup sandwich. We have a president who is putting more and more regulations on businesses, which is stomping economic and job growth. Government has taken more and more of our freedoms. They have taken over our health care and are trying to take over our schools with Common Core. We as Americans must wake up. Get involved before it is too late. We must fight to preserve the America our founders created, a nation that was founded on faith, family, and freedom. The fight is not easy, but anything worth fighting for never is. Our founders paid a heavy price for freedom. 5 of them did not live to see the independence they were fighting for. 9 of them were tortured. 12 of them lost everything they owned, and 3 of them lost their families. Now it is our turn to sacrifice and to fight to preserve our freedoms and the American dream. I am Nick Skiriotis, president of S&K Asphalt and Concrete, and I approve this message.
Fed up with politicians who care more about special interests than people on Main Street? So is Opportunity Ohio. We're working hard to solve Ohio's toughest challenges so Ohioans can create more jobs to grow our economy. See our plans and consider a tax-deductible contribution at opportunityohio.org. Invest $25 for a signed copy of Matt Mayer's book, The Founding Debate: Where Should the Power Over Our Lives Reside? Please visit opportunityohio.org.
All right, and we are back, and I appreciate you being with us, and I hope that those statistics about the loss of manufacturing jobs were as upsetting to you as they were to me, and this whole trade deal that basically got stopped in the Senate. The fast track was derailed because the Democrats would not go for it until they get to see it and until they get some changes in it to protect the common man, the average worker. But folks, again, go back to who's looking out for the middle class. Those of you who listen to this show or watch this show online will remember me talking about a book called White Collar Government by Nicholas Carnes. And in that book, he talks about the fact that there are no blue-collar people in Congress. Okay? It's just not there. Even in your state government, less than 4% of the people have ever worked a blue-collar job. And what he proves in his book, White Collar Government, is that when you are of that class, you tend to represent that class. They don't know what it's like for you to raise a family on $40,000 a year. They're making $140,000 a year or more. And this is the problem. We've got to start to elect people who represent all of America. And we're being really denied that opportunity by the system, by the corrupt political parties who care nothing about except for keeping control. That's all they want. They're not in it for you. You got to call your House member, your U.S. House member, your congressman, and because this goes from the Senate, and it's going to pass the Senate eventually, okay, and it's going to go to the House, where we have to kill this. This trade, we don't do bills that we can't read. We're done with that. You and I wouldn't do that in our lives. I run a business. I won't sign a contract I haven't read. You wouldn't buy a house without reading the terms of the loan agreement. You wouldn't even buy a car like that. But they're going to do this trade deal that's going to affect millions of Americans' jobs, not even read it, and tell you that they're representing you? I don't think so. I think you agree with me. So make a call, send an email today to your congressman and say, no, vote no. You can't vote for this until you read what's in it and can assure me that you're protecting me. You're protecting the common man, because that's who funds this country. We're the backbone of this country, the working men and women. We pay all the bills, okay? So we're going to move on to Hillary Clinton. And if you remember last week, we talked about Joe McCarthy, okay? Well, guess what happened this week? And folks, I mean, I couldn't have predicted this. I was surprised to see it. And I think if you were listening to the show last week, when you heard it, you probably were surprised as well. But guess what happened this week? A political hack named Lanny Davis, who was on the Bill Clinton administration way back in the 80s and has been a hack for the Clintons forever. He was on C-SPAN talking about the Clinton Cash book, and he literally compared the author of the Clinton Cash book to Joe McCarthy. He said, I remember when I was a young man, a guy named Joe McCarthy, a senator, held up these documents saying that this many people in the government were communists and made all these wild accusations, and that's what Clinton Cash is. But if you remember last week, I talked to you about the book, Sites, Blacklisted by History, that talked about Senator Joe McCarthy and went to the Soviet Union and looked in the records of the Soviet Union and found that not only did Joe McCarthy have those people identified correctly, but there were more of them than anyone thought. And so, those of you who listen to this show now know that, it's probably correct that, the book that's out there, Clinton Cash, because he's got his facts together, and the Clintons have no defense but to attack the messenger, and that's what they're going to do. You should also note that Hillary Clinton's lawyers actually sued the state of Ohio last week. Yep, saying that we are trying to basically make it harder for minorities to vote. It's outrageous. It's absolutely outrageous, because as I've discussed with you before on this show, Ohio has more early voting days than any state around us. Okay? And I thought John Husted, our Secretary of State, had a great response. He said, well, I think maybe Miss Secretary Clinton has really sued the wrong state. Maybe she was mistaken. Maybe she should have sued her home state of New York, where they have no early voting. No early voting. Yet she has the audacity to try to claim that Ohio is restricting the vote and suing us over our very liberal rules that allow voting, absentee voting, a month in advance. There's no excuse for that. But there's no excuse for the Clintons either. There's no excuse for people not fighting back against the Clintons. Okay? And one of those people who's doing this is Tom Fitton at Judicial Watch. And folks, I've had Tom on. I've had people from Judicial Watch on. And I got to tell you, this is one of the most important organizations in our country. Judicial Watch is out there fighting for you all the time. They did something really historic this past week when they filed 7 lawsuits on to try to get to the bottom of the Hillary Clinton email scandal. Okay? Now, again, think about this. This has been going on. Hillary Clinton, it was identified that she had her own server and wasn't using her official secure government email address the whole time she was Secretary of State. This came out in February. What's been done? Nothing. Nothing's been done except by Judicial Watch. And here's what Tom Fitton and Judicial Watch has done now. These 7 lawsuits basically ask for some important things. First, they ask for the non-state.gov emails of former Deputy Chief of Staff Huma Abedin. Okay? Huma Abedin, who has direct connections to the Muslim Brotherhood, who was Secretary Clinton's chief aide. They're asking for her emails, which nobody else has asked for. Okay? Then they're asking for all of Hillary Clinton's State Department emails, which she claims that she made, she wanted to be public. Well, how come they aren't public yet? These are the ones that she actually did print out, which was, again, a way to keep them from being distributed. She printed them out on paper and gave them to the State Department. So now they got to scan them all and send them to us. Okay? But she said, I want these to be known. We haven't seen one of them. They're asking for all the non-state.gov emails of former Secretary of Clinton. They're asking for the names of all State Department employees using non-state.gov email addresses. In other words, if Hillary Clinton was doing this, and now we know her staff was doing this, who else was doing this? We don't even know that. They're looking for former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's communications during the attack on the American diplomatic compound in Benghazi. Again, where are those emails? Who was she talking to? They're looking for State Department policies and procedures and review processes enacted to ensure against conflicts of interest between foreign interests and the Clinton Foundation during Hillary Clinton's tenure as Secretary of State. They want to know, what was the terms of the conflict of interest document that Hillary Clinton signed, and what did they do to enforce it? And then they want to know all the documents that Hillary Clinton was supposed to sign after she left as Secretary of State, because those documents should have said that she would turn over everything. And if they didn't get her to sign this standard agreement that all government employees sign when they leave office that says, I'm turning over everything that belongs to the people of the United States, she committed a crime. Okay? And Judicial Watch is fighting that, and I think that's just awesome. Okay? It's just awesome. And I thank Tom Fitton for that, and you should go to judicialwatch.org and give to them generously because they're fighting for you. Okay? But now, I want to talk about this because the people who are supposed to be on our side, supposedly the Republicans in the Senate are on our side, remember, they confirmed Loretta Lynch as the new Attorney General. Okay? 10 Republicans, including Rob Portman, betrayed you, okay, by confirming Loretta Lynch as this new Attorney General. Okay, and on the screen, if you're watching the video, you'll see an email from me to the Portman campaign staff, not his senatorial staff, saying, please give me the names of Republicans who will vote for Loretta Lynch. At that time, I did not know that Rob Portman was going to vote for that. And I said, this woman should have to testify that an investigation into Hillary Clinton's illegal servers is warranted before confirmation. Right? This is illegal activity. There's been no government action whatsoever. And when the Republicans had the ability to hold her accountable by not confirming Loretta Lynch if she wouldn't agree to do that, they folded. They didn't do it. They just didn't do it. And that's outrageous. It's just absolutely outrageous. So we'll see what happens with Judicial Watch. They've been very successful before, and we hope they will be again. I want to close with a couple small things. One, I'm very proud of what's going on in Texas, because in Texas, they are actually going to pass 3 new laws protecting natural marriage. This week, they may pass these 3 new laws protecting natural marriage. And they're basically saying that states' rights trump the federal rights in this issue, which is what the Supreme Court is going to rule on coming up in the gay marriage, the 6th District Court of Appeals natural marriage ruling that we had here in Ohio. And I'm glad to see states are still stepping up, even though Mike Pence, that coward in Indiana, backed down, and the governor of Arkansas did as well. Because, we need to understand it's the people who make the laws, not activist judges. And that's what you are getting. 75% of the people in the United States already live in states where gay marriage is legal. No, they don't. No, they don't. Only 11 states have, gay rights where marriage is legal for gays. All the rest of the people have voted against it until the Supreme Court rules, and even after the Supreme Court rules, the people have the right to define what marriage is. And I'm proud of what's going on in Texas, that they're standing strong on that. We'll be watching that issue. I want to close by talking about this event that's coming up on May 19th. That's next Tuesday. And that's the Buckeye Institute is having an evening with Steve Moore and Paul Atkins here in the Cleveland area at the Cleveland Marriott East at 26300 Harvard Road in Warrensville Heights, Ohio. That's right off of 271, folks, the Cleveland Marriott East. And it's at Tuesday, May 19th from 5. There's a reception at 5:30, and the program starts at 6:30. It's $25 per person, and you can make your reservations at Buckeye Institute May19.eventbrite.com. That's Buckeye Institute, the word May, like the month, the date 19.eventbrite.com. Many of you have ordered tickets on Eventbrite before, and you know how that works. And basically, Steve Moore and Paul Atkins are going to come in and talk about free markets and capitalism and how important that is to our economy. And I hope you will join me. I will be there on Tuesday to see Steve Moore. I've had him at some of our events before, and he's a great speaker. And I don't know Paul Atkins, but I'm looking forward to meeting him. And so if you can't remember the other website, just go to buckeyeinstitute.org, and you'll find information there on how you can go to that event. All right, so wrapping up today's show, I want to just talk to you about something that's really important, okay? And that is that we, the people, are in charge, despite what you read. Because remember, what you read isn't necessarily the truth. We talk about that all the time. It's up to us to demand that we get represented and that government works for us. That's what the Tea Party movement is all about. That's what you're all about. That's why you listen to this show. You can never lose hope. You can never get depressed. You just have to keep fighting for freedom and liberty. Your freedom, your individual liberty, and your rights. You've been listening to Tea Party Talk with Tom Z. I'm glad to have you with me this week, and we'll be back next week.
This is former State Representative Matt Lynch inviting you to join me for common sense conservative conversation each Wednesday evening at 6:30 p.m. on How I See It. You can listen live or listen to the podcast anytime, 24/7 at mattlynch.com. Each week I am joined by my daughter Karen Quay on a rhino hunt as we separate the phonies from the real conservatives who are willing to stand up for faith, family, and freedom. We challenge the politically correct politicians who say one thing to get your vote, then do another once they are in office. 2015 is a new year, but too many of our politicians didn't get the message that business as usual in Washington is no longer acceptable. If our representatives in Congress are too scared or too weak to speak up, then we must raise our voices and demand they fight back against the liberal loonies. Never forget that we, the voters, are in charge, and we are the masters of our government, and we cannot let politicians ever forget it. So listen in every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. or anytime at mattlynch.com. I'm Matt Lynch, and that's how I see it.